Okay, everyone. Let's take a look at we've already done some introductory work. Those who have had this class in person have seen some of the introductory work in person, and you've also seen a film pertaining to some introductory work right before this, an introduction to the content that covered very many things, actually, I hope. I hope it covered them relatively well for everyone. Well, here's the situation. Looking at the Chapter 1 content in ALEKS for Math 107 for MATC, but this holds for anyone wanting to review some of the basic content. That's why it's present. It's present for people here, so anybody can use this. Let's look at a couple things that are of interest. For the test that you have, and all of this, and this practice test number 1 or practice test Chapter 1 will scroll at the end of the video. When I do another video pertaining to Chapter 2, the Chapter 2 practice test will scroll at the end of the video, and so on and so forth. It'll be for Chapters 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Those chapters, not counting Chapter 4, Chapters 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, each one of those chapters, each one of those practice tests that look like this will scroll at the end of the video. The solutions are also at the very back of this, at the very back of the sheets that are going to be scrolling respectively. So the answers are there as well for that. As you know, I mean, this stuff summarizes, for those of you taking the particular class with me at MATC, know that there's going to be 7 practice homework assignments, 7 practice quizzes, and 7 practice tests. And the for real homework and for real quizzes and for real tests are also going to be 7, 7, and 7. 7 real homework assignments, 7 real quizzes, and 7 real exams. And that'll be on ALEKS. But those of you not in ALEKS, just look at the content based on how I'm teaching the content and just take it from there. How they want to do some of this stuff that we're doing, guys. So, again, so you're looking at this from one perspective in an actual class that's being taught, and you're in my class, and another one for another class that I'm teaching. It's just supplemental material for you. It should help you out in case you're not comfortable with some of the content some of the mathematical content that may arise. Especially the first video seems to summarize things pretty well, the introductory stuff. But we'll go with this as well. All right. They say a few things here. Let me do one. There's 1 out of 10. I don't know if I'm going to do all 10, you guys, but before we go any further, there's something else of interest. I mean, we have talked about how things get multiplied, divided, all this other stuff. Let's just say it again a little bit and then also add something to it, I guess you could say. If you really want to look at this, remember, we talked about real numbers, and if you're going to be doing multiplication with real numbers, if you're going to be doing division with real numbers, if you're going to be doing addition, and if you're going to be doing subtraction, we were told to keep in mind certain things. If you multiply, we already said that if you multiply any real number by 0, or any real numbers in an array of multiplication, if 0 is in there, multiplication by 0 yields 0. If you are dividing by 0, it's undefined. If you've got 0 divided by any non-zero number, that's also 0. So we talked about that. So, aside from what we just said regarding that, we remember that if you multiply 2 positive numbers, you get a positive answer. If you multiply 2 negative numbers, you get a positive answer. If you multiply numbers of different signs, 2 numbers of different signs, you get a negative answer. Doesn't matter the order in which you multiply them. So here we are, guys. I want to make sure you can see it. Usually the chalk I use is really good, top of the line, so you should be able to see that. Division has the same analogy. If you divide 2 positive numbers, we're talking about a positive answer. Divide 2 negative numbers, you're talking about a positive answer. Divide two numbers of opposite signs, you get a negative answer. So that's rather significant. In other words, if you multiply or divide two numbers with the same signs, both positive or both negative, you get positive answers. If you multiply or divide two numbers that have the same sign, both positive or both negative, for either multiplication or division, you get positive answers, always. If you multiply or divide two numbers with opposite signs, you get negative answers, always. If you add two positive numbers, the result is even more positive. It's a bigger positive number. If you add two losses, the loss is even bigger. If you add two negative numbers, the result is even more negative. If you add two numbers that have different signs, there's a bit of a tug of war that occurs, and the number that is more positive, or the number, I'll kind of abbreviate it, the number that's more positive, if one number is more positive than the other one is negative, you get a positive answer. If one is more negative than the other one is positive, you get a negative answer. If they have equal magnitudes, you get 0. So you get either positive, negative, or 0, depending upon what's going on. The number with the bigger absolute value will determine your answer. If you subtract, we said A minus B is equal to A plus the opposite of B. If you're ever really in doubt, addition's a good way to go. And I've already gone into that, but I just wanted to say it again. There is something else to look at that's of interest. And parentheses and brackets, things of that nature, have the highest priority. You do what's in parentheses or brackets first. After that, you do exponents, powers, and roots. After that, you do multiplication and division. And after all that, you do addition and subtraction. Last priority there. Okay. So they talk about some stuff here, guys. Let me just see exactly what order I want to take it. There's 10 problems here. They shouldn't be too bad for us when we're doing this. And like I said, we'll move on pretty quickly, I think, when we do it. For a problem like problem number 1 in this practice that we have, guys, the 1 of 10, as they say. Problem number 1, they're saying, what's 8/15 minus 2/15? Well, compared to some stuff that we already did, guys, this is very easy. You keep the common denominator alone, leave it alone. 8 minus 2 is 6. We know that 3 times 2 is 6. We know that 3 times 5 is 15. These cancel, and you got 2/5. It's about as simple as that. Look at some of this stuff. For problem number 2, and this is scrolling chapter 1. This is the practice test number 1, some parts of it. Problem number 2, a field that is 3/4 acres must be planted with seeds. If 36 people will split the job equally, how many acres must each person plant? Write your answer in simplest form. Well, you've got 3/4 acres, and you're going to divide it equally between 36 people. Divide by 36. 36 or 36 divided by 1 is the same as 36. 36 divided by 1 is 36. Another fraction. Make them all into fractions, guys. Whenever in doubt, a fraction divided by another fraction is the first fraction multiplied by the reciprocal of the other fraction doing the dividing. We've already talked about this. Cross cancellation here, 3 goes into 36 12 times. (1/48) of an acre per person. Absolutely. And again, guys, the answers are in the back too. We can always check. I'll check as well in case I misread something, but it should be okay. Okay. So on and so forth. I mean, let's just kind of go with some of this stuff and see how many we're going to do. I'll see how I want to do this. We're not always going to be doing every single problem from the practice exams, but you know, it's as long as we do the hardest ones from the practice exams, we should be okay. We should be looking okay. Let's take a look. Okay, well, we've said a number of things already, guys, so. See what we can say here, guys. Let's take a look at a few of these. Look at number 3. They are asking a question where you got to pay pretty close attention to order of operations. We got 5/6 minus the product 1/3 times 5/8. If in the absence of brackets or parentheses, you've got to follow those order of operations pretty strongly. Basically, addition and subtraction, you guys, have the last priority in what you're going to be doing here. That subtraction is the last thing you're going to be dealing with. Let's deal with this. 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 8 is 24. You got 24 here. You got 1 times 5 is 5. So we evaluated this by multiplying the numerators across to get a new numerator, multiply the denominators across to get a new denominator. Now we'll do the subtraction. Well, we know that, well, you know, if you multiply 6 by 4, you get 24. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll use a special one called 4/4 here to convert this thing into 24ths. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 6 is 24. It's 20 over 24 minus 5/24. Well, let's do the subtraction here. You subtract the top. You worked hard for the common denominator. Leave it alone. Go for the numerators now. Common denominator left alone. 20 minus 5 is 15. How about 3 times 5 is 15? How about 3 times 8 is 24? And here we go again. 5/8 for number 3. So what's going on, you guys? So say something like problem number 4. I mean, whenever you're in doubt in a lot of these problems, guys, subtraction's not a bad way to go, but you got to follow the order of operations, how this is going to proceed. This is -12. This is the quantity -24. They didn't really need to do that, but they and divided by -6. Well, before you got to kind of watch out here. This addition, once again, in the absence of brackets, or you say, well, there's brackets and parentheses here all over the place, or at least there's parentheses. Yeah, I know, but these are just placeholders. There's no operation going on within them. So it's not really that significant. What is significant, so it's almost like it just easily not be there. The addition is the last thing you're going to do. Well, then do it last. Don't do anything now. In the meantime, do this. What is -24 divided by -6? Well, a negative divided by a negative is a positive answer. So it's the same as 24 divided by 6, which is 4. Here's a tug of war. The -12 has an absolute value of 12. The +4 has an absolute value of 4. Because -12 has a bigger absolute value, the negative sign dominates the answer. Pretend they're both positive and just go, well, by how far? Pretend they're both positive, do a subtraction, and then assign the sign. 12 minus 4 is 8. Yeah, I know, but the negative dominated the answer. So we got this. So that's a lot of what's going on when they're doing some of this stuff, you guys. Very interesting stuff here. I mean, you look at problem number 5. say some interesting things, and we're going to comment on it. Again, that subtraction by itself is the last thing you're doing. Brackets and parentheses have the first priority. So what's going on here? Well, before I square anything, I got to evaluate what's going on in here. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 is going to be squared. Again, that subtraction is the last thing you're doing. 4 minus 1 is 3. I'll take that to the third power. Let's go. This is very important. The quantity negative 8 squared, the quantity negative 8 squared is negative 8 times negative 8, which is positive 64. If you have negative of 8 squared, the negative stays, and you go 8 times 8. The negative stays, 8 times 8 is 64, that's negative 64. So if the negative's all by itself, out there like this, it's going to stay. It's going to stay. It doesn't matter what's happening here. You're taking care of this, but that negative stays. When it's in brackets or parentheses, you walk it as many times as you need to. If you walk it an even number of times, two negative numbers multiplied together, even number of things being multiplied together, just two things, negative times negative is definitely positive. So be aware of that. This is 64. This is minus. 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. Again, that subtraction is the last thing you're doing. The rest is just a subtraction problem. When we do it, we should get 37 for a final answer. And that's essentially a lot of what goes on when we're doing this stuff, guys. As we try to hit this whole process. All right, let's keep going. All right, so again, number of ways to be doing a lot of this stuff, you guys. Let's just, let's proceed. For number 6, you got 2a minus 6a. I got 2 apples. I'm going to take them from you, and then I'm going to take another 4 apples. Well, I don't have another 4 apples. Well, you're down to the whole negative 4a. You're in the whole negative 4a. What do you mean? Well, I mean, if I have 2 apples and you take 6 apples from me, I'm going to have to give you the 2 apples. I have 2 apples and that's all that I have, but I owe you 6 apples. You're going to take 6 apples from me. I only have 2 apples. The 2 apples I have you will take, and then I owe you 4 apples. I'm down 4 apples is what I mean. So it's a negative 4a. Just go 4 minus 6. Forgive me, go 2 minus 6, that's 4. And it remains apples. Don't say just negative 4. If I have 10 apples and you take 7 apples from me, there are 3 apples left, not 3. You don't lose the letter, the letter, as we had said last time. So something like this as well. Minus 6a is plus a negative 6a. 2 and a is 4. The a is here. There it is. They're saying simplify for number 7. And there's, like I said, guys, these will scroll at the end, but those of you who don't have this data readily available, you'll see this scrolling at the end of the video, and you can always compare that way if you wish. Those of you directly in my class have this as well. You have this in the content of Blackboard and other places as well. So we got this. This right here, I don't know, the way I play it is I like to add, to be honest with you. Negative 2 times v is negative 2v. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Minus 4 is minus 4. Minus 4 is plus the opposite of 4. You got negative 2v. Negative 2, a loss of 2, and then a loss of 4 on top of it is a total loss of 6. This is the way I write it. They might write this differently in different places. Watch out how they accept some of this stuff, you guys. Plus a negative 6 is the same as. Plus a negative 6 is the same as minus 6. Negative 2v minus 6, or negative 2v plus a negative 6. Be careful how the system would accept that for those of you taking the actual class. For 8, they're saying evaluate the expression. Evaluate the expression when m is equal to 5. Please evaluate this expression right here. Pretty basic stuff, guys. I mean, you go this way. 5 squared is 25. 17 is 17. Add them together. For 9, again, guys, I'm not sure what order we're going to do some of these in. Sometimes we're going to do all of them or a good portion of them. We'll see how it all works out. 9, use the equation below to find p. I want you to find p, if a equals 13, a equals 13, b equals 17, c equals 7, and they're saying p is this. Just, again, the idea of substitution. Pretty basic stuff, but like I said, if you need some help with it, here it is. So a is 13, b is 17, 13 and 17 is 30, plus 7, 13 plus 17 plus 7, let's keep going. I got 10 here. And they're saying here, evaluate the expression. They're telling us right off the bat that x is 14. I'm sorry, not 18. Z is 8. So x is 14, z is 8. What if they give you this entire song and dance here, guys? Let's deal with it. When you're putting in something for a letter, it's a good idea to put it in parentheses. Z is 8, put it in parentheses, square it. Whenever you put in something for a letter, don't leave it without parentheses, actually. Because if that was a negative 8, you could mistakenly reach the conclusion of squaring negative 8, going negative 8 squared is negative 64 if you didn't put it in parentheses. When you put it in parentheses, it's a different dynamic. So you got this. X is 14. Z is 8. And you will square just this. The multiplication takes place after all that. Got to do this. 8 squared is 64. For some reason, my blackboard's not doing good things here, so maybe that's my chalk. And here's 4. 14 minus 8 is 6. There's 64 for you. Here's 4. Now be careful. You're only exponentiating what is in parentheses. So it's the 6 that's being exponentiated. 6 to the second power is 36. Here's 64. 4 times 36 is 144. Add these at the end of the day. What is all this, you know? You add this together, you get 208. And that's it. That, I mean, that completely summarizes practice exam number 1 for those of you taking the course in ALEKS and taking it either at MATC or something else possibly, but this is actually good practice right here, guys. Just generally. So we have it here. And again, stay tuned. We're going to go for the Chapter 2 practice test. And like I said, sometimes we'll do all of them. Sometimes we'll just try to do the main ones that are there. But thank you for your time.